Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. I'm sorry about Monday's program, but I got barraged by all kinds of technological things. I'm laughing at what Rick may have put up. These are things that he and I know. Adam Heart Mother by Pink Floyd, the bovine cover. I had my primary computer go down, and it's not going to be ready until Monday. They're saying could be later than that. And I went to my backup, and my backup died. And this is third string, so I'm down to Joshua Dobbs. Okay, as far as laptops are concerned. So it is what it is, and I hope it holds up well. My apologies for missing out on Monday's show. You should know me by now. After 19 years, I don't miss many shows. We got a few things to talk about today. Obviously, the Browns are playing on Sunday, which makes it different than last week. The Monday show was kind of expendable because there was nothing to talk about regarding the Browns after a non-entity week. But this is going to be a real challenge against the Dolphins. We'll be talking about that. But I wanted to start out the program with probably the most bizarre of all things. I mean, I'm a firm believer that, bad decisions render bad results. And I say it about businesses and football teams and baseball teams and basketball teams all the time. The deal is that bad decisions sometimes are made for a reason and sometimes are made for no reason. But the Colts hiring Jeff Saturday as their head coach is one of those things where either they're just trying to tank the rest of the season, they're going to an old friend, and they're going to do a fuller search, and they felt that they had to get Reich out of there. Reich didn't have a son, and fortunately didn't have a grandson, because he would have been the third Reich, and we can't have that. Now, can we? It was a joke that was just sitting there, and what more can I say? Jeff Saturday has no experience except at a Christian high school academy, and really bad. And only 20 and 16, so he had very little experience. And suddenly he's the head coach of the Colts. And, it's Irsay. What can I tell you? This is a genetic defect. Joe Thomas referred to it as a joke. But again, the team was going nowhere. And Frank Reich was a perfectly good coach. And I don't understand. He had a 40-33 record, but he had to go through and all of the things at the quarterback position, and it just, they had luck, and that ran out, as luck often does. And then they picked up Ryan, which I thought was a big mistake by the front office, because he was old and stiff and didn't have it anymore. And there's nothing there. They have nothing. And my feeling about it is how can you hold Frank Reich responsible when you put a shit team on the field and then you judge him by that one shit team? It's very difficult. And I can't emphasize enough that the men who play this game are not going to, he's not going to know what working hard really is. He's a 13-year career center in the NFL, but that doesn't give him any experience in trying to motivate guys who are currently earning 10 times more than he ever earned as a really good ball player in the NFL, and maybe even a lot more than that. If you haven't had the experience of bringing people together, it's just ludicrous that you would name somebody to that position. But, that's that. And the funny thing was Joe Thomas saying it was the most egregious thing I can ever remember happening in the NFL. And I went 1-31 my last 2 years in the league. Way. Oh, Hugh Jackson, Oh my. And that was Thomas's comment that he thought it was a joke when on Good Morning Football. It's incredible. I see Coach Wilson is joining us. Hi, Coach Wilson. How you doing?
Hey, doing all right. I mean, we didn't lose last week, so that's always a good thing.
Hey, our heads are above water, right? And so I got to thinking about this, and I don't sit here and expect to talk about what Irsay is doing in Indianapolis, but I can go to the next story, which basically really terrifies me. Here's the headline, and this is from clevelandbrowns.com, so this is literally from the friendliest, home-friendly of all sites. Headline, Paul DePodesta breaks down Browns' first half of the season, believes good things ahead after a bye week. Now, I want to tell you something. This man knows nothing about football. He knows nothing about football whatsoever. And I'm going to read some of this article to you. He's not just being optimistic for the sake of it. DePodesta, who is the Browns' chief strategy officer, spent last week reviewing swaths of data with the rest of the front office as part of the Browns' self-scout process. They conduct in depth during every bye week as they look for ways to improve the team in mid-season. The offense is ranked 7th in the league in efficiency, has proven to be better than what we thought it would be with Jacoby Brissett. But the defense was, after several games, 31st in the league, and they've kind of gone up to 24th in the last 2 games, which is still shitty. The bye week gave the Browns extended time to find solutions for a strong second half. And why is he so optimistic? The reason, DePodesta said, is because the Browns learned a lesson from last year when the bye was in week 13. They realized then that they needed to begin the self-scout process far earlier, which is what they carried over into this season, even though the week 9 bye was perfectly wedged into the middle of the schedule. This year, as a consequence, DePodesta said, we've actually been sort of doing that same analysis we would normally do at the bye week. We've been doing that now every week since week 4, he said. Once you have a meaningful amount of data in all 3 phases, you can start looking at those things and saying, okay, what are some early trends in terms of what we're doing well and what we're not? I can look at the goddamn fucking screen and tell you, you moron, what we're doing well and what we're not. I don't need your swaths of data.
He's literally talking about sample size. It's like, come on.
It's a remarkable stupidity. And we got to go up against the Dolphins, for God's sakes. And we've had trouble with that juggernaut New England offense. We had trouble. Did you see the Falcons and how horrible they looked? Marcus Mariota's not going to be in the NFL for long. I can tell you that. He was horrific. Missing wide open receivers, but the team played with such a lack of luster. I mean, they were terrible. And the Panthers won because it was handed to them on a silver platter. They just didn't, they didn't play hard. The Falcons didn't play hard. But the Falcons ran it down our throat. I mean, let's be honest about this. You can take a look at the last game we played and say, oh, well, they crushed the Bengals. The Bengals didn't come to play. Let's get real about it. I know the difference between my team looking good and the other team looking like shite. I know this.
Like DePodesta, that's an outlier. So there's your analytics for you.
Yeah, exactly. But of course, that's what he's pointing at. He's always going to point to that one thing. And here's what DePodesta said. This proved how good the defense can be when all 11 players are executing as planned. Listen to these generic comments. So much of it for us on defense is just having everybody on the same page. We know that when all 11 guys do their job, we're really good. We just have to have that happen more often, right? That's easier said than done, but earlier in the season, we had some busts that cost us. $230 million for one bust that I can think of. Thank you. I again, these are just hanging like just low-lying fruit that I can just pick at. But those mistakes went away after the first couple of weeks, and then I think as we've been able to understand the different concepts that we run more efficiency when we have a better chance of all 11 guys doing their job. So this is all this guy has to say is, you know something? I've discovered something as chief strategy officer of the Browns, that when our guys stick to the script and know what they're doing, they're better. Doesn't make me feel better, though. Nor should it for any Browns fan. And you can point to the offense all you want, but the offense hasn't been there in a number of games either. It's just that the defense has just been horrendous.
And we're talking about a game where it's about adjustments. It's about adapting to the situation. It's not all about having the perfect plan because, I mean, no plan is going to be perfect anyways. But if you're willing to adapt and adjust and make changes to the situation, you have a better chance at winning, and that's what the good teams do.
Hey, plethora o swag. Where were you in the Midwest? And where are you now? I just like to keep track of where the viewers are from. It's always of interest to me. I grew up in Ohio, so again, I guess what I'm pointing out is when the people have positions of authority, like Jeff Saturday, who have no experience, or DePodesta, who has no experience in football until he came to Cleveland, in any level. He didn't even have the Christian Academy that he coached. For God's sakes, he had nothing. Nothing. I see John is sitting in there. John is sitting at his computer just down here in Florida. Ah, okay. Youngstown, now Baltimore. All right. Well, Youngstown, wow. I spent some time in Youngstown. Yeah. Idora Park. I don't know how old you are. That shows how old I am.
Hey, I hear an echo.
You're hearing an echo?
Yeah, from last time I was here too, I heard an echo. I'm hearing something in the background. You're over talking yourself. So what am I doing wrong?
I'm not sure that's you. Are you hearing an echo, Coach Wilson?
I'm not. No, I mean, I got headphones in, but I don't hear one.
Yeah, I'm listening to you from, you're like a sentence ahead.
Oh, I have no idea what would cause that. Anyone in the chat room, if they're hearing any kind of an echo, please. I think they would have mentioned it by now.
Yeah,
but I'm not getting that.
It's something to do with me. I guarantee it.
Ah, well, congratulations.
Thanks.
At any rate, you know, what I think about the Cleveland Browns is that I think Stefanski does have an idea of what he's doing offensively, although it is very cookie cutter in nature and it's based on pounding repetition into people, but he doesn't motivate people very well. So that's the missing ingredient of him. He's kind of a stuffed shirt. He's an Ivy League guy. And even when he's trying to act excited in post-game victories, he's like forcing himself.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, at first I was maybe like, is it really that bad? But I had free tickets to the game actually and got to go on Monday. Um, and I was just watching Stefanski and his behavior and even the rest of the staff on the sideline. And I mean, when people say that this man is on an island, he really is. He's he's nowhere near the players. He wants to be pretty much as far as possible. It's not an exaggeration. There's no doubt about it, and very little interaction so that he can be in his box. It's like shut up so I can think sort of thing going on there. It's not healthy.
And and as far as the head coach, if the strategy is being molded strictly by analytics, it might explain why these bizarre calls on fourth down. That just sounds like something that I don't know. I don't want to say it, but again, I don't look at DePodesta as a football guy, and
Interesting.
John Dorsey was a football guy. Yeah, and you may have said that he was not the easiest man to work with, but I will tell you this: he knew his shit. I don't think he always agreed with people in the front office around him in all of the places that he was, but this, for DePodesta to sit there and put the onus on stacks and stacks of data without mentioning the fact that during the offseason we did nothing to improve our defensive line or our wide receivers. If he is the chief strategy officer of the Cleveland Browns, I mean, ask him some hard questions, would you? Just
Yeah, this guy's he's like the man, behind the curtain, so to speak. I mean, he makes, I think, a lot of powerful decisions. From what I've researched, he has a heavy influence on everything that's going on. I mean, even if you just look at the Wikipedia page, he's the president, de facto. So, I think some people don't understand that. But of course, he wants it that way. He doesn't want to be questioned. He doesn't want people after him. And so he's making all these decisions, so much influence and no real accountability for it. And that's the story of the organization structure of the Cleveland Browns.
and I love this an article saying Taki Taki is rising to the occasion. Anthony Walker Jr., dead man. Niedermeyer, dead man. Jacob Phillips, dead man. Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa, quasi dead man. Taki Taki, who's in his fourth year, has been forced to play more downs, more snaps. And the reason is because, again, we haven't done anything to draft a good linebacker in God knows how long. Joe Schobert was our last attempt, it seems to me, and he hasn't made it anywhere because he was undersized and would get dragged down the field by running backs. And again, bad decisions just will always get bad results, and that's the Cleveland Browns in the long and short of it. And I'm sure Taki Taki will have more tackles because he's playing more downs, but what is he in coverage? What is he as far as getting into the backfield? What is he? I mean, he's not a blitzing linebacker. He's not a coverage linebacker. And to be honest with you, Jacob Phillips was totally confused with the defensive scheme when he was playing. So what does that tell you? And the veteran that they've brought in, I mean, if Anthony Walker, who's known as Anthony Walker Jr., but he might as well be Anthony Walker Sr., I mean, he's not a young, young pup. And the guy that we brought in from Atlanta, Deion Jones, is that his name?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy who years ago was a solid football player, but a lot of luster was off of him. And just having experience in the middle with being, what is it they call it? The green dot or the guy who makes the alignments at the line of scrimmage, who barks out what they're supposed to do. Having an experienced guy to put them in the right position makes a damn bit of difference. When you hand that to a guy who's like Jacob Phillips, and you saw that the scheme totally fell apart, then you know that even if Deion Jones is a step slow compared to what he used to be, he's at least lining people up and telling people to do the right things, and some communication is taking place.
And it's funny that because the game that our defense probably looked best, John Johnson was the one with the green dot that week.
Yeah, well, I mean, but John Johnson has hardly been spectacular.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I would think that a veteran would have a better idea how to go about a scheme defensively and how to study it than young people who are coming out of big schools like LSU or Notre Dame and probably just would wing it when they go out in the field in college Saturdays. It's different in the pros. You know, and Taki's had 21 tackles the last 2 games, and that's wonderful. And, but we don't have anybody that is going to bowl anybody over. And that's on Dee Podesta in his front office as well. And because I would imagine the analytics literally is piercing every part of the Browns organization. What we're facing this week is speed. Tyreek Hill and Jason Waddle is what we're facing. And, you know, I've seen this script before too, where you do whatever you can, and the defense, Joe Woods, will say, whatever you do, you just can't let them get behind you. I don't know how many times I've heard this. But we don't have guys who are capable of covering them. So it's going to be a deep zone defense. Try to keep them out of the end zone and keep them holding to 3 instead of 7. But, you know, here's the problem with the Browns this year. Playing a soft zone may keep people in front of them and may keep the score kind of a little bit more down. But at the same time, then they won't stop anybody rushing the football.
And we can't get off the field on 3rd down ever. You know, we play great for first down and 2nd down. 3rd down, I don't care if it's 3rd and 20, we'll give it up.
Keep talking, John.
I said, if it's 3rd and 20, we'll give it up. We can't get off the field on 3rd downs.
Yeah, I'm just raising your mic up a little bit. That's all.
Oh, all right.
So that way. All right. So, you know, the thing with Tyreek Hill, if you're playing a zone defense and in that zone defense, he hits a seam, but you know, the bottom line is he can go 70 yards after he catches the ball. That's the difference between letting a tight end catch the ball over the middle and letting Jason Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I mean, Hill has 1,104 receiving yards on 76 catches. I mean, you know, that's crazy. Waddle has 812 yards on 47 receptions. Do you know how much that is per reception?
That's crazy.
I mean, it's beyond crazy. And hi, Amsterdam. I'm glad that you're showing your face around these parts. It's been a
Hello,
while.
sir.
Yeah, you've aged since the last time I saw you.
Yeah, I'm aging by the minute.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
That's
I mean,
right.
is it? Yeah, it's a sad thing when the mind starts to go, isn't it?
Hey,
I know.
I know. You know.
I do know. So those two guys, everybody knows to look out for when they play the Dolphins, and it doesn't matter because look at the stats they're putting up. You know, but then you've got Tua, who, and I'm not going to say anything bad about anyone in particular. Brian Flores, excuse me. Brian Flores, excuse me. Just clearing my throat. Tua looked like a different man. Well, he actually has been two men this year. One was knocked out of his senses and allowed to continue to play. And the other, though, has been being able to find the right receivers and playing a scheme that he's obviously more comfortable in. He leads the league in passer rating with an 115.9. He's only thrown 3 picks and has been sacked just 8 times. It's not that he has a big arm, but neither did Brian Sipe. If you get enough protection up front, and he has the added ability of being able to scramble, and, and he can get, with the speed he has at the wideout position, he can get rid of the ball quickly, because even short passes can end up very large gains. He's going through progressions very well, too. And a lot of people question whether this guy, coming out of Alabama was the guy, whether he was, NFL caliber. Well, it sure as hell looks like it now.
And it adds when before he had his former coach, Flores, who was trying to get the vet in and didn't really believe in him. And now they have a scheme built around him and a coach who believes in him. And now you're seeing he's playing a little bit better, too.
Well, I mean, confidence has something to do with it. But the coaching change seems, because obviously Flores had no confidence in him.
Yeah.
None whatsoever.
That's our local market. So I'm forced to, saturated with the Dolphins news. And that's pretty much the consensus down here as well, is that was a bad, matchup with Flores. And the coach is God to them now on the transformation. And of course, I think you throw Hill on anybody's roster. It just shows you that guy's insane.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that really, when I saw Tua, it was a lot like when I saw Travis Lawrence come out. I didn't see the biggest arm in the world, and in Tua, I definitely didn't see a real big arm. He was a small guy who was mobile, but he didn't have a strong arm. But boy, they've surrounded him with weapons, that just huge weapons.
I think he's got the shortest shelf life of any of, the hot quarterbacks. Just from, he doesn't just have injuries. He has fucking colossal injuries. That college injury where he did like a Bo Jackson pop his hip out. That's a fluky, high grade injury. So I think he's so injury prone, and I think it's just he's a ticking time bomb on taking a hit and getting whacked again, like Denzel on our team.
Yeah,
Denzel is so fragile. We're going to eat that contract. He's no long term.
And this is, the best chance that the Browns have is if he's out of the game. I don't want people to get hurt.
Yeah.
But the fact is, there should be some blitzes planned in this game to try to rattle him. But the end result is, yes, and Denzel Ward's the same way. Denzel is now saying, I can't wait till I get my hands out there and my feet back on the ground and play against these receivers,
and he's out for like 3 weeks at a time, mild concussions, you miss a game, maybe. I mean, he's out for 3 weeks in a bye, he's got long-term.
Got issues. And,
remember when Greg Williams jumped on his ass that you don't know how to fucking tackle? You're going to kill yourself?
Yeah, you got to talk a little louder. You're fading in and out, mainly out. So for whatever reason, are you like far away from your microphone?
No, I'm pretty close. I'll see if I can turn it up.
All right. But, again, it's not just vertical speed. And if you're looking at, we haven't done well stopping the run either.
Luckily, they can't run, so there's that.
Well, I mean, we've seen teams who couldn't run. We've seen guys come off the bench who'd never played in a league before. eat us alive. So I'm not really sold on that type of thing either. The thing that goes under the radar, besides Nick Chubb, who consistently goes under the radar because the league just won't admit that he's flat out the best. And I thought it was really great, Derrick Henry, and would have been on Monday's show when he was on the air. I forget which NFL show that it was that they had him on, and they said, you know, so how's it feel being the greatest running back in the league? And his response was, "You're talking to the wrong man. That would be Nick Chubb." And I think good running backs know good running backs. And,
Yeah.
but Amari Cooper, you don't get any kind of real feel because the league doesn't really follow the Browns. And what are you doing, John? For God's sakes, are you masturbating with your camera? Make that stop. You gotta understand, John. This is my job.
Come on, Jimmy, quit your crying.
But I mean, Amari Cooper has 553 yards at this point of the season, playing with Jacoby Brissett. He's going at an 1,100 yard pace with Jacoby Brissett. That's pretty damn good. But it all goes under the radar. It doesn't matter.
It's tough because you have guys like Nick Chubb and Amari Cooper and another guy in Cleveland, Evan Mobley, who they're really talented and good, but they don't have like the personalities that the league usually promote to make them stars, but they produce.
Yeah, it's I've looked through all the picks. I mean, you're looking at ESPN.
I was losing by.
Yeah, the two picks from ESPN, 27-17 Dolphins, 30-20 Dolphins. I'm just going to go through this real quick. NFL.com, 37-34. The Browns are not going to score 34 points. If it's a 37-34 game, it's going to be worse than that because I know that they've given up a lot of points in games, the Dolphins, but I don't see the Cleveland Browns on the road scoring 34 points. That's a little bit goofy. And Pete Prisco, another guy who just really loves the Browns organization, says 34-27 Dolphins. You're not going to find anybody who's picking Cleveland to win this football game. So I'm going to do my picks, and I'm going to have my guests first start out. We'll start with Amsterdam. What's your pick in the game?
Dolphins 31, Browns 21.
Now, it's interesting. We just had, a lot of rain, as you know, Amsterdam. Everything okay there, by the way?
Yes, sir. It hit us. We're in Palm Beach County. I'm the north end, and it hit Martin and St. Lucie. So we just had 50-mile-an-hour winds for a while and some heavy rain.
How bad did Port St. Lucie get hit?
Pretty bad. A lot of sand erosion, all the way up the coast here. We have a huge sea turtle nesting ground, and we're the closest to the Gulf Stream of any place in the U.S. right here. So we get, super warm water, but a lot of erosion too when shit like that happens.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, so I'm sure the field will be in good playing conditions. Things
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Down.
They missed everything down there.
Yeah. So, Rick May is already, and Bronk is letting himself be known that the Fish win 25-12, and Rick May is saying it's going to be the Fish 31-23. And we'll go to Double P. What do you say, buddy?
I have a really bad feeling about this game. Obviously, I really do want the Browns to win, and I think we can, but just worries me that the Dolphins have such a good passing attack, and I don't think we're equipped right now to be in a shootout. So I have us losing probably like 34-30 or 34-28, something like that.
All right. John, fire
Brown,
away.
Browns 27-23.
Oh, there's an optimist in our panel, and that's good. We
Always,
got to have diversity.
always.
And Coach Wilson?
Miami 30-24.
You know, the thing that keeps the Browns, that keeps the score down, if anything can, is the Browns' running game. And I guess that's how I look at it. If the Browns can move the ball on the ground, and look, Kevin Stefanski isn't planning for a shootout against the Dolphins because he can't win doing that. There's no way. So it's going to be run, eat up clock.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that will help keep the score down. The problem is there does come a point when you have to open up, and that's when the clock, instead of continuing to run, stops, and there are more possessions for the Dolphins. My belief is that this game is not going to go well. I think the Dolphins, even though the Browns are coming off a bye, and we can say that they're, healthier than they have been. Thanks for your prediction, Mark. And I'm going to say 30-13. I don't think the Browns are going to have a good offensive day scoring points. And I think that, again, Deep Podesta's words are a harbinger of bad things, because when you get focused on the one good thing you've done and you realize you did it against Zach Taylor, it really is not such a feat or an accomplishment.
Did you hear Myles Garrett's words?
No.
Basically, it was just talking about how there's a good vibe in the building, and this is the best they've felt, and every guy's comfortable, and along those lines.
Well, I mean, if you can't feel good about yourself, what can I tell you? This segues me into the mini slump of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah.
Last two games haven't been good. And somebody made a comment about Evan Mobley. And, the fact is, I think they should spend less time telling him he's a unicorn. And they should have gotten on his ass for not building up his body more in the offseason. And I'm sorry. This is an unforgiving league. He's getting pushed around. And he is neither fish nor fowl at this point in his career. He should have put on a bunch of muscle. You look at guys like Giannis who come into the league young, didn't take them long to muscle up. This guy looks exactly the same as he did last year. His hands are too weak to play in the post because he fumbles too many passes that go into the low post for him. Shooting fadeaways, he can technically shoot. He's not strong enough to take it to the hole and finish. And he's not rebounding the way that he needs to rebound. And I'm looking at this honestly and saying, stop telling this kid all of this shit and get somebody who can really work with him, and to get him to understand how much hard work it is. Because I've seen greats like Michael Jordan and LeBron James work on their bodies, their ability to stretch, and their flexibility, their strength, their shooting from the field, their free throw shooting, all the things that great players do. And, and Bronk brings up a good point. And I'm not blaming these losses on Evan Mobley. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying what I'm seeing, but what Bronk is saying is the most obvious thing. And Darius Garland, it goes beyond looking ill and hurt. He was playing really selfishly. He was playing hero ball. There is no way that in the fourth quarter that
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell goes 7 minutes without taking a shot. And all the excuses, well, the Kings doubled on him and this and that and this and that. There's no fucking excuse. If he has to give up the ball because he's doubled, you got to run schemes to get him through screens to get him open, get the ball back into his hands instead of settling for these long jump shots that, quite honestly, Garland was not coming close to making. And with the exception of the first game that he really came back, there's concern. And the concern is, are his legs weak? And I don't understand, because what happened to his eye wouldn't have stopped him from riding a bike and all that. Is he not in game shape? Then reduce his minutes. Is it a vision problem? That's another thing you can concern yourself with. I mean, anyone can have a couple of bad games, but it really was a bad situation in which the Cavaliers just haven't been playing lockdown defense.
Yeah.
They've been letting teams score in upwards of 70, 67 points in the first half of games. They've had the one game they blew that lead going down the stretch.
Game.
They had a 13-point lead and blew the lead because they lost their composure. Young teams do that. The other thing I'm concerned about is J.B. Bickerstaff slowing the ball down. When you have a 13-point lead, it isn't that you start running like a crazy Ritalin child like Jetty Osman. It's you are sharp and you're precise. You run plays that run X amount of time off, but they result in good shots. You don't stand out near the midcourt line, hunched over, dribbling the ball back and forth, hoping that the fucking clock is going to run out. That is the prevent offense, folks. That is Marty Schottenheimer personified. Go ahead.
And we did it so early in the Clippers game. And that's what really just got to me, because obviously we're not going to win all the games, but how we lost that game when we had the lead and we weren't really attacking anymore. And I understand that Garland had a good first half, but I think it's more than just the physical, because that second half, especially in the fourth quarter, he just didn't look good and he was making some bad decisions.
I mean, 4 minutes and 38 seconds left of the fourth quarter is an eternity.
Yeah.
And when the coach comes out and says, we're starting to play selfish basketball, and this is not the way these guys are being taught, that's not the way it's working. My feeling is that young players who are getting, some good, really nice headlines, getting some good notice, it can go to their heads. And that's why I say stop telling them that they're that good, because 8-2 didn't matter. It's 8-4 now, and take a look at the rest of the conference, and we're right there. We're back to where we were, being just a couple of games away from not making the play-in. You have to continue to play every single minute of every single game. And Bickerstaff saw that. I saw that. I think everybody who watched the game saw that the Cavaliers were outspeeded and outplayed by a Sacramento team. They were getting open looks from three. That one guy, Lyles, was this guy like rubbed Limburger cheese all over his fucking body and nobody wanted to get near him? I don't understand it. But
and he's a stretch big.
Huh?
I was saying, and he's a stretch big. All he can do is shoot.
Yeah, I mean, you get up into his chest. You're forced to put the ball on the floor. What the hell?
Yeah.
But they let him just stand there one time after another, and you can't do it. And it was very, very, very disappointing, to say the least.
And what do you think about, because I do think they did play 3 games in 4 days. Yes. Do you think a little bit of it is them being fatigued? Because I understand we might not have the depth, but I don't think we're using all of our roster to our advantage.
Well, I think that again, every team in the league is going to have the 3 and 4 day stretch. That is part of the NBA, and guys got to build their bodies up to it. Yeah, I think it has something to do with that, and I think that that slowing down and dribbling the ball slow. I mean, you know, it is. They're going to be 8 and 4 after tonight, is what I'm telling you, Christopher. That this is, you know, ask anybody. The last game of a road trip and the first game back home are the toughest two. Those are the toughest two games because, you know, you're getting on a plane and you're getting the hell out of the West Coast. And I've seen more mail-it-in performances that you can imagine. And when you're playing a team that's currently 4 and 7, and you know, when you're 4 and 7, you're hungry, and if their head isn't going to be into it, I mean, you can say it's, you know, fatigue, but we were down by so many points against Sacramento and came back. We were ahead of that game, 105 to 101. And we just let them go off on this run in the final, you know, like 5 minutes of the game. And that was that. And we had a 13-point lead and we tried to sit on it. And, you know, I'm not thinking this team, it looked like it wasn't running plays. It looked like Darius Garland just wanted to do a yo-yo solo at midcourt. And Donovan Mitchell is too good a player to waste that way. But it's a challenge. The West Coast trips are always difficult, but it's, you know, I'm going to be watching the game tonight. And, you know, honestly, I'm not expecting a whole hell of a lot because of the historical last road game after a West Coast swing. We'll see. The thing that's amazing the hell out of me is the Utah Jazz and Lauri Markkanen.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
can you
What the
imagine
hell
if they could have held that dude?
Well, you know, the funny thing is everybody has a place and a scheme and a system that will, you know, that will work. And it's not that, I mean, Lowry was a guy who played in Europe, and he's a guy who he got hurt a lot. And, you know, he had to go through a lot of different things with the Bulls. And they wanted him to do this. They wanted him to do that. The Cavaliers predominantly wanted him to be the guy who was the three-point shooter guy.
He's far better in the post than I ever thought he was on going to the hoop hard.
Well, now Utah seems to be willing to, I mean, the majority of his points have come down on 2-point shots. The last game, this last time he scored 32 points, he opened up and was shooting, I think, 6 of 8 from 3.
Yeah.
But in the previous games, not so. He was doing a lot of his damage down in the blocks. And you know, the only thing I'd ever say about Lauri Markkanen is if he can stay healthy, you got to give up something to get something. Everybody was whining that it was Colin Sexton. Colin Sexton has been an absolute persona non grata in Utah. He has played his way off the floor. He comes in and he hogs the ball. He does the same thing that he did with the Cavaliers. The coach there just sat his ass down. He's down to playing like 13, 15 minutes in a game.
In our draft pick that the guy that we drafted, he's not playing 0. He's not even coach's decision.
Agbaji is not
He's
an
worthless.
NFL or excuse me, an NBA ready player.
He's a team.
Well, he's a guy who would be a big scorer in the developmental league.
It's just crazy because Utah, who would have thought they would be top 10 in offense and defense?
It's a peculiar situation, and 10-3 is a hell of a start. And I'm sure people are looking at tape and are going to be trying to figure out what it is they're doing. But Lauri Markkanen has never played this well in his career, and maybe he has reached a physical point. And we've seen this before with athletes who, when they mature at different times, and maybe maybe Lowry finally is starting to feel healthy, and I hope for him that he is.
Most
I'd
improved
like
player by far.
I'd like to see Dylan Windler have an opportunity to hit the floor, but that's just not happening.
He seems to
I
have
mean,
bird ankles. Those
yeah.
little hollow bones that just don't hold up.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering. I mean, I've heard that he was thinking about perhaps, doing. Yeah, there's some kind of noise in your background, Amsterdam. So I've muted your. No. I've muted your mic. Uh, Whatever it is, it just sounds like a chipmunk. Now you're unmuted. So,
But I hear the sound as well, Moo.
yeah, but it stops when I click on you. When I mute your mic.
Okay.
Watch. See? It goes away. So, anytime you want to talk, just unmute your mic. It's cool, But, in the background, that noise is just going to drive everybody absolutely.
I'll leave and jump back in.
Yeah. So,
I also wanted to say, I know we've been loosely following this story in the NBA, and it's kind of coming to a conclusion now. You have the Nets hiring a new coach, and Ime Udoka, I guess, didn't get the job.
Again, this shows me it's the Mickey Mouse hour. I mean, the Nets should never have floated his name based on the situation that he came out of.
Yeah.
And that quick and that soon to the whole situation, they should never have floated that name to the press. And there's a more close up of Amsterdam. The guy they promoted, that's wonderful. But it wasn't done in a professional way. And the Kyrie Irving story is, I'm going to say something to be consistent. All right. I don't believe that what Kyrie Irving linked to the garbage that it is, the hate speech that it is, should be a reason why he never gets to play in the league anymore. But I think players have to understand the consequences of being divisive forces and professional rosters where it's just a fine line between winning and losing. And Kyrie Irving, when things were good in Cleveland, he ended up whining his way out of town. He mystified people in Boston so much that they were willing to part with him so that, Brown and Tatum weren't ruined by him. And then the Nets, they figured, well, we got this great lineup with a big three. And he ends up refusing to take, the shot, the vaccine, and it results in him not playing in half the games. And he becomes the story every fucking year, wherever he is. And it's always a negative one. And now there's this. What Kyrie Irving has to understand is that there is every reason to believe that NBA owners are going to be very, very cautious. Hi, Bronk. How you doing?
Whoa.
So, I know if I were an owner, I would look at skill versus attitude. And if I were building a team effort, Kyrie Irving doesn't fit into it, no matter how offensively talented he is. And I would say the same thing about Allen Iverson. I think there are certain players who are me first people, and their need to be me first people just strips the rest of what they could accomplish in a sport. I think he should be free to play in Sacramento. That's what I believe. Where maybe they can put some fans, in the seats to watch him because he is such a talented offensive player. So
it surprises me he didn't choose the Knicks over the Nets because he seems also kind of perfect for the Knicks situation too.
Well, I mean, and again, I think Knicks fans are just sick of losing, and that doesn't help them out. And the thing is, Kyrie wants now to be part of a team that's a stacked team, but then he ends up the single biggest dividing force out there. I think that he should get an opportunity to play, but I think that what will wind up happening is that he will end up playing in inconsequential places. And that, to me, is the just desserts of the situation. And when you're playing in New York City and you go after the Jewish population, for God's sakes, and you link to something that hateful, you know that you're just going to create the worst headlines that you can imagine.
Yeah, you don't want to be caught between the moon and New York City, do you? Because the only thing you can do is fall in love. Moo.
Yeah, all that noise is coming from you, Amsterdam. I don't know what it is.
Maybe a headset will help.
I think he's got a fish from the ocean that's popped into his computer and it's flopping around doing.
Yeah, but I have to make it stop because it's driving me up a wall. The bottom line is, I mean, I wouldn't want him on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Not that we have a place for him anyway. And teams that are looking to get better, to get over the edge, Kyrie will get his points. Kyrie will get his numbers, but he's gonna sulk if he's not bathing in the light of the attention of large city media.
Oh, yeah.
He will just sulk like a child and bring everybody down around him. You want to talk about what caused Kevin Love's depression to kick in? It was Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I'm being serious.
I'm sure.
I mean,
I'm sure
it makes
you're right.
going to work a really shitty thing.
Yeah.
And it's
I
pathetic.
blame IT. I still blame Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah, I think that too. Everywhere he's been, it was the same story.
Yeah.
And I was drafted as such the number 59 or 60th player, yada 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 yada, and I got a chip on my shoulder. It's like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Carry my bags. You're a bellboy. Carry my bags. I don't want a stock tip from you. I don't want that. Just carry my fucking bags. Everybody's got a certain thing that they do professionally. And as a player, you try to win. And I don't care what the chip on your shoulder is. I don't care how it got there and what it means. You got to play together with people in order to win.
I had to step away for about 15 minutes. What did you say about the Sacramento game? Because I was up watching at 3 to 5:30 in the morning, and the Cavs looked outplayed the whole game.
Yes,
even though they had a chance to win it, they just did not look like.
I don't think they deserved to win that game. I think the Kings played well. But they were made to play well because there was nobody who was contesting shots, and they were letting people get to the basket. And
they shot like 60%, for most of the game. I think it was just unbelievable.
Yes, there was a swinging door defense.
Yeah, I felt like they beat us at our own game of run and gun and playing fast.
Well, I think the Cavaliers don't play defense well in a scattered floor. I think what the Cavaliers do is they turn rebounds into transition into really good looks, and they can do that way. But they're not a traditional Loyola Marymount up and down team. And teams are dirtying up the game, if you will, by playing a lot of hand defense, reaching in.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to discover on the road, home teams will get away with that. That's kind of how that happens. The NBA did come out and say that there were 2 critically bad calls in the Clippers game, that they were taking
the missed travel. Is that one of them, or?
No, the ones that I'm trying to remember which ones they said were the mistakes that they made. The one play that I didn't understand was when LeVert shot the ball from 3 on the wing and he fell backwards out of bounds, how that was an offensive foul. How in the hell can he be kicking his legs out if he's falling backwards?
Yeah,
I couldn't figure that one out. But there were a number of calls, but that's not why they lost those games.
Yeah.
They lost the games because the way the Cavaliers work is they have, like good defensive teams do, periods where they hold teams to 18-point quarters, and they'll have 12-point burst runs, and they'll do that to you twice a game. And it's very hard for teams to overcome that. And the Clippers were just about decimated by it until they were somehow reincarnated. And honestly, Sacramento Kings lost a big lead, and the Cavaliers were in the position to win that game for no good reason.
I mean, the Cavs had so many more rebounds, but we just could not handle the ball. I mean, Sacramento was stealing the ball, and they were like messing with our heads and doing all that. And this was a terrible display, really, of
yeah. Well,
I don't know what Tommy Heinz would say about that, but
no, he wouldn't say anything.
He's dead.
He would be taking the big dirt nap. My feeling is I'll be watching at 10 o'clock, see what happens, and I'll watch the first half, and then I'll go to bed.
Well, I'm hoping I'm in bed
watch
the whole
rest
night
in the morning. And
before we go, I wanted to hear your thoughts about Dan Snyder failing to Sterling the league.
What?
Oh, say again. I didn't. You kind of broke up in my headset. I'm sorry. Dan Snyder
what do you think?
What to the league?
What do you think of just the updates that we got about the Dan Snyder stuff? Because he was talking about how he had dirt on the league, and now we're seeing that doesn't even matter.
No, I mean he's got to sell the team. I mean, I don't forget. It's like the mafia. If you're John Gotti and they want you out,
you're out.
You're out.
Yeah.
And I mean, and you're in the middle of a cement pillar somewhere that no one's going to find you.
Yep.
I mean, that's the bottom line. Is the NFL is a league controlled by 32 men. And if those 32 men meet behind closed doors and say that owner is bad for the game, then he's gone.
Yeah.
We had it in Cleveland with the Cavaliers with Ted Stepien. It got to a point where the league, everybody was beating up Cleveland, but it got so bad that the league said, we just can't.
Yeah, the league had no integrity leaving us the way that we were,
Yeah, I mean, and so what they did in essence is they reinvigorated the entire Cavaliers team by bringing Wayne Embry in as the general manager, but get all those picks and all those opportunities to get the team back on track, because Stepien was just murderously bad. Dan Snyder is murderously bad, and he will bite the hand that feeds him, and that's the kind of guy, if you want ownership change, that's how that's hastened. It isn't hastened by the Jimmy Haslam types who will hobnob with those other 31 men and woman, and that's the deal. As long as he's a happy, contented loser, you're welcome on board. But
and it's funny now that they're saying after that lawsuit from DC that Roger Goodell he might be taken down from this too now.
Well, I mean, the owners will always have their guy. I mean, this is what it is. And this is what I talk about all the time, and I don't like about the league. And there's all kinds of things, and it sickens me to my stomach when I see everything's gambling and everything is, wager oriented, and
can I ask a question about that?
Podcasts are dedicated to it, and Bally's Casinos owns a ton of broadcast sports properties with their name on it. It makes me sick to my stomach. I don't like that. But the fact of the matter is that this is a money grab, and any way that the owners can make money, they're going to make money. And if you don't believe me, you wait for Apple TV and you wait for Amazon Prime, And I want to say one other thing. I am not buying a blue check mark to verify who I am on fucking Twitter. I'm a goddamn cow. And Elon Musk can suck my dick because I know a little Hitler in disguise. And
Wow.
look, my feeling
is.
about Elon Musk is, look, it's wonderful. A good businessman who produces something, you'll never hear me criticize that. And to be honest, it was really a great business decision to go into the electric car business when he did, when he knew that making the car wasn't the end game, but the batteries were.
Yeah.
When you have a guy with that kind of foresight, that's how you, I mean, and I say the guy produced something and he proved that the product was worthwhile. And if you're going to build an electric car, you're going to use that technology, and good for him. But it's the same thing that I said about who was the guy who was the, oh, for goodness sakes. He ended up being an owner in the NBA.
Oh,
And
not
he was
Steve Ballmer and
internet kind of technology.
Mark Cuban.
Yeah, Mark Cuban, right. You know, there comes a point when just produce, do what you do, but we don't want to see you everywhere we look. We don't want to, you know, and you got to pay to prove who you are, you know?
Well, that's been hilarious to people that have like parodied accounts and paid their $8. You see the one about LeBron coming back to Cleveland.
Yeah,
I laughed my ass off. That was so funny.
Again, these people are so wealthy, they don't know what to do with their money. And I'll tell you, if I didn't have to pay any taxes, I'd be a lot wealthier than I am. If we all didn't have to pay taxes, we'd be a lot wealthier. And these guys, of all people, when they have that kind of money to buy out Twitter, to buy the New York Mets or whatever the story is, you know, that's why I call them little Hitlers, because they will just invade Poland and everything around them, and they will take away, you know, and the only thing that may save us from a Donald Trump account on there, which is probably what's next, is either if Trump dies, which, you know, or that the other little Hitler, DeSantis, takes over the party. And I want to say to all my red wave friends, that's my red wave.
Who would win in a cage fight between DeSantis and Trump? You know, like WWE.
DeSantis would, and
Trump,
you know,
would he be able to like trip him up? Because Trump is a lot bigger, isn't he?
Trump is a big talker. DeSantis is a guy who would definitely pull the lever and release the gas in Auschwitz.
There you go. Yeah,
that's the way I would do it. It's 8 after 7. I got to get out of here.
No,
I don't like Ron DeSantis. And I believe that the people win who win, and the elections aren't rigged when you lose. I'm tired of that horse shit, and I'm tired of social media talking about that crap. Whoever wins, wins. Whoever loses, loses. The country moves on, and I'm just looking to be happy. And the people that I see who are part of this, the far fringe right red wave people, these are not happy people. No, these are end of days people. These are people who think the world is coming to a fucking end. They're the people with 100-pound bags of rice in their storage units in their homes. They're a bunch of fucking crazy lunatics, just like the crazy lunatics who want me to change the English language so I can call an individual person them, they.
Wow.
I mean, if you're not sure what in the fuck you are, and if you want to change your gender every day, I have 2 recommendations for you. All right? Learn to be called by your name. And if you have multiple identities and I call you the wrong one by mistake, I'm sorry. But if you think that I'm doing it intentionally, no. It's because I've got a name. So did Jim Croce. You know,
He
it's
had a
like,
bottle.
this is what I say to all that. I want attention. Ricky. Stop the nonsense. You can be what you want to be. I don't want my children taught about gender confusion in school.
Wow.
We can have a goddamn course entitled Dysphoria. How's that for you? Dysphoria for you.
Very quick question. What's the deal with Ohio? When you watch an Ohio feed, you get all of these like I am Caesar. Then they say coming to Ohio. So what does that actually mean? Because I haven't come to Ohio for years now. I have no idea. The gambling law is different in Ohio than
Oh,
other
they're getting the laws. Ohio's going to be able to gamble in January.
January.
Basically.
Oh,
Yeah.
so they're pumping up these adverts like 3 months or 4 months, 5 months in advance.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
surefire, just another way to tax the public, man. It's just another way to bilk more money out of people.
But take money from poor people, basically,
that's
is what it is.
What it all comes down to. And, I got friends who were saying, because of the Republican tinge down here in Florida, which is really quite extreme. And I have no problem with Republicans. I just have, real problems with cult
Nazis.
people.
Yeah.
Cult people I stay away from. Republicans are Republicans, Democrats are Democrats. And then there's the cult members on both sides. And I try to stay away from those folks because they don't represent any natural, sane thought process. I love the one woman who is claiming, well, it was rigged. It's rigged, and she's losing, and it's like they're not even done counting the votes yet. It's rigged, and it's like,
Oh, that's that stupid newscaster bird in Arizona, man. Wow.
Heaven's Gate. Put on a pair of tennis shoes and off yourself. Join the rest of the gang. Goodness gracious. That's it for me. I'm done today. Thank you, Bronk. Thank you, Double P. Thank you, John. I know, even though you're having some difficulties, Coach Wilson, it's always a pleasure. And yes, I will be cheering for the Browns on Sunday. You should never have to ask that. Anything we do to keep this game competitive, I'll be proud of. And as far as the Cavaliers, this is a lesson to be learned that, you have your first taste of success. Don't let it go to your head, because lots of people have had an initial taste of success. The great teams maintain that level of ability and success over, 10 years. So, got to keep working hard. Thanks, everybody. I'll be back again. I guess I'll be on the halftime show and the post-game show on Sunday.
Wow.
So, and then I'll be back again on Monday. So you'll be seeing so much of me, you're going to be sick of me.
Isn't there
Thanks,
a
everybody,
Cavs
for tuning
Gophers
in.
game, or Cavs versus the Gophers? Cavs versus the Gophers, or Minnesota, or whatever they're called, Sunday night?
Oh, no, I'm not doing anything about that except watching it.
No, I'm just thinking, isn't there a game Sunday night after the Browns game?
Wouldn't surprise me. I'm going to be inundated. My eyes will be crying.
Wow.
So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Be back again on Sunday. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.
Bye.